Joining me now from Los Angeles, retired LAPD Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey. She's the author of the book Black and Blue, The Creation of a Social Advocate, Volume 2. So a year on now, no one's been criminally charged for Breonna Taylor's death. She's really become a symbol of how difficult it is to hold police accountable. Are you surprised by this outcome so far anyway?
No, I'm not really surprised. I mean, we've grown accustomed to officers not being held accountable when they use deadly force in a way that's contrary to our training. And so this is yet another example. Now, we know that one of the officers has been indicted, but it has nothing to do with the death, the murder of Breonna Taylor. It has to do with shooting into a dwelling of one of her neighbors. And so, no, I'm not surprised.
So if anything positive has come out of this tragedy and the death of George Floyd, it's all the police reform legislation that's been passed or is still in the works. Example, the city of Louisville has passed Breonna's law, which would ban no-knock warrants. Chicago's banned them. Other jurisdictions are looking at it. Federally, we have the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. It does a bunch of things, banning chokeholds, removing qualified police immunity, ban some no-knock warrants, and so on. Many police, as well as many Republicans, say these measures would stop police from doing their jobs. Is that true?
Well, let me tell you what I know, since I did that for a couple of years, and so none of this is going to stop a Derek Chauvin or any of his cohorts when they're out in uniform, because all of these things have basically no teeth. I mean, there's talk of ending no-knock warrants. That's a good thing. I don't say no to any of the legislation that they want to put forth, but what happens when an officer actually violates this legislation? What happens when you have an officer who's actually on that national registry, right? I'm sure that Garrett Rolfe, who shot and killed Rayshard Brooks, and Derek Chauvin, who sat on George Floyd's neck, was on a list somewhere. And so if you don't have any real accountability, if you don't have a real consequence, what's the point in creating all of this legislation?
Yeah, and that registry is meant to stop sort of bad cops from bouncing around from place to place and possibly doing these things again. But is the problem what, that the police unions have too much strength, that they're getting too much support?
I certainly think that the police unions have a lot of strength, and certainly, paying large amounts of monies into campaigns for elected officials makes one understand why some may be hesitant to put forth legislation that's contrary to what a police union may want. But here's the deal. You have a registry, you have a no chokehold situation, and then when officers do it, what happens next? What happens when an officer like Daniel Pantaleo uses a prohibited chokehold, and then we have then Commissioner James O'Neill say that wasn't a chokehold, that was an upper body seatbelt restraint? And so while qualified immunity limitations are being bantered about, I think we should also look at decertifying police officers who are accused of malfeasance.
The settlements in the Breonna Taylor's case, the recent record settlement for George Floyd's death, family attorney Ben Crump said the settlement, quote, sends a powerful message that Black lives do matter. But you wrote, you're skeptical about that settlement. You don't say, you said that it won't stop the next incident, and this may in fact be a precursor for a not guilty verdict. Why do you say that?
Well, listen, we've seen large settlements since 2014 with the onset of these deadly uses of force with Eric Garner and Mike Brown and Tamir Rice and Sam DuBose and everyone else who's lost their life at the hand of an errant police officer. First of all, is taxpayer money. So the department is not learning a lesson. You're certainly not teaching the officer a lesson because of qualified immunity. And so taxpayers shoulder the brunt of that financial civil settlement, and the officers continue to live to offend again. They, in some cases, are disciplined, maybe not so much. And so what have you done to really deter that bad behavior? We're actually allowing them to pay us to kill us.
That was author and retired LA Police Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey demanding real accountability for police officers.